Well, got the chassis rolled into kind of the far stall here. It used to sit over on the other side. Firewall, took it outside, got it blasted, cleaned up, had a little bit of surface rust. Should be nice and squeaky clean. We are going to have to take a little bit of acetone, peel off this etch primer. Did a test spot back here. Comes off pretty easy, so we will need to do that just to make sure there's no intermingling of the paint that doesn't work right. Do need to finish up that seam in the floor. We'll do that when we get it on the rotisserie here shortly. But otherwise, got to pull these two bolts here. There's some body mounts there. There's a couple more body mounts right under this. You can kind of run into that route rigger there. Those are the only ones I think I have bolted on right now. So should be able to pull those off. And then I think what we'll be able to do is pick up the back, get it on the half of the rotisserie, and then we can use the chain hoist, pick up the front half. We can shoot the rolling chassis back out the door. Tub will be kind of hanging in the air. We can get the other half of the rotisserie on there, and then we can start working away. So that'll be the plan. We'll see if we can get that plucked off for hopefully the last time. And then, like I say, I got to do that seam. I do have to work these body mount brackets. For whatever reason, they're at the wrong height. Just the nature of the way everything laid out. All the other ones are where they're supposed to be, so those are just the odd ones out. We'll nip those off. Either put some straight steel in or flip them around. We got to do a little measuring. But pretty minor. That's about it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this flange here. It's a little bit weird. It's kind of an odd shape. I may just trim it back. I think that's probably what factory has. There is a lip on the, I can feel behind it. So that's probably the plan, is just trim that back along that line just to clean it up so it doesn't look so goofy. And away we go. Let's get her peeled off so we can work on the tub and get that last major chunk painted. That'll be nice. Well, on to the next one. So tub's all cleaned up, everything's prepped. Caught a few little last gotchas. The spare tire carrier bolt holes were in a funky spot, and had to move a few for the passenger seat. This is where the tub was off by that ½ inch or so, so I had to re-drill these holes for the gas tank cover and slide that seat bracket up. Glad I caught that before paint. I hadn't planned on actually throwing that in there, but I threw the gas tank cover in to check. Noticed those bolt holes were off. These were actually missing as well. A couple through that box in the back. So once I noticed that, then I kind of bit the bullet, threw the whole front seat structure in because it all ties together. I was able to get things mostly lined up, figure out what holes were off, fix those. So that's good to go. Very glad I caught that before paint. But otherwise, everything's cleaned off. Took off any of the etch primer from when they shipped it. Gave it a quick sand with the DA sander. And now it's time to throw some epoxy primer on her, top and bottom. Be interesting to see. It's going to be some funny spots, just kind of fun painting all up in here. A lot of nooks and crannies in that dash. But I've got the little gun and the big gun, so hopefully the little guy can reach in most of those spots. Then he can jam on the rest. But otherwise, on the rotisserie, time to mix up some epoxy primer, and we'll give her a shoot, let her dry overnight, then we'll do any of the little bit of body work that it needs, and then base and clear like usual. So onward and upward. Well, tub's got all the bodywork done. Got a coat of epoxy primer, and we did a little bit of bodywork, not a whole lot. Had to level out a little bit there where the firewall meets the door sills, but not too bad, pretty minor, just to get it nice and smooth down that line. It's a big kind of flat surface, and when you mate the two together, they can be a little bit off. So one other thing, I went back and forth a little bit on it, but as I put the surfacer and primer on it, I did end up filling the spot welds. They were a little bit inconsistent, just kind of on the depth. They were some of them were pretty deep, and they were a little bit more than what you see like on the hardtop panels and stuff, compared to factory, because it is an aftermarket tub. I was going to leave them, and I left them as long as I could. I kind of gave them a test run, putting some paint on them. But they were, like I say, they were just a little bit too deep for my liking, and they're kind of, some were deeper than others, so it was just kind of a weird look. So I ended up just filling them in, just to make things a little bit more consistent. This isn't like a original tub, it's not like a SEMA restoration or anything, so covering those rivets or spot welds isn't too big a deal to me. Everything else is pretty smooth, and I went and looked at like the hardtop sides and doors and things, and you don't really see a whole lot of major spot welds on those comparatively, just based on what I had. So I kind of made it match the rest of the rig. Otherwise, body's looking pretty good, nice and smooth. I did end up doing the body work on these fender flares as well. They came out pretty good so far. They smoothed out pretty nicely. You can kind of see them here. So they just clip on with four bolts on that lip of the tub. But all in all, they came out pretty nice. I'm curious to see how they look with some paint and clear on them. But otherwise, they're pretty smooth. Pretty happy with how those came out. But it's time to get the shop cleaned up, throw the old Tyvek suit bag on, and get some base and clear on here. That'll be the last big paint push. I do have the spare tire carrier and the trans tunnel cover to do, but I wanted to get the body drying as long as possible. And then once I can get everything back out of the shop, then I can work on the fiberglass hardtop. That'll get its place on the rotisserie just so you can kind of roll it around and shoot a little easier. But time to suit up, time to mix some base. We'll get this squirted, let her dry, and shoot some clear and see what we got. Onward. Well, welcome back. Tub is done. It got the old epoxy primer, surfacer, bodywork. Not a whole lot on that. It's mostly new metal, just a little bit down in that rocker. And then base clear. Turned out pretty good. One little run kind of by that gas tank filler. I think I just got a little heavy kind of getting around there. Otherwise, laid down pretty good up top. There are a few little dust pips up on the horizontal surfaces, so I couldn't get all of the dust out of the garage, but pretty good. That'll come out with just a little bit of wet sanding and buffing. Still got that to do. Otherwise, the only other thing I ended up redoing, I reshot these rear inner fender liners. You do see them on the FJs. There's no interior. They had a little bit of, I think the rag caught some lint in a couple spots, and they had a few extra dust pips as well. So I ended up just sanding those down and reshooting both sides to get a good finish on those. Came out pretty nice. I had missed a spot as well on the rail, so I had to remix some clear anyway. So I just ended up reshooting these. They got nice kind of clean lines that you can work from, so it's not too hard to reshoot those. Both sides need a little bit of love. And when I was trying to do everything in one go, roll in the tub and stuff, I missed kind of on both sides a little bit underneath that rail and in that back corner, just based on trying to work the gun around and not drag your hose. You've got the tub tip. There's just some weird ergonomics to get in those corners. My hat's off to the guys back in the day that shot these all day, every day. There's actually a video out there. I may link it up in the top, where they're shooting them on the assembly line. The guy just gives her. Otherwise, kind of redid each side there. Turned out pretty good. Dash ended up pretty good. It'll get a wet sand as well and a polish, but pretty happy there. There's a few little pips and stuff on the floors, but they'll get mats, so not too worried there. But all in all, pretty happy. Good to have it. Good to have it all back in one color. That is the bulk of the painting. That's probably where we'll wrap this one. I do have the hardtop hiding in that back corner, and there is a couple little smattering, basically that gas tank cover and the trans tunnel cover hiding in the corner there. They need to get blasted. and shot. Hardtop, I need to borrow the rotisserie. So he's kind of waiting. It's also a different color. It's going to be a bright white. You probably saw it earlier on the bezel versus bib. So the top's going to be a brighter white than the side. It's actually the same color as the Jeepster. So it's that white versus cream white, just to give a little contrast. So that'll be that, but I got to free up the rotisserie for that guy. And before I can do that, I've got to get the engine back in the chassis. That's where I'm going to head to next. I've got to rebuild these Burfield ball joint U-joints on the corner. You can see they're kind of the last rusty bit on the chassis. So I got to strip those apart, redo all the bearings and stuff. I'll probably skip that, and then we'll jump right ahead to getting the drivetrain back in the chassis. She's a little empty right here, kind of needs some stuff. But it'll be nice to get that done, run the exhaust, so kind of get everything buttoned up before we drop that tub back on. Should be pretty easy, and then it'll start looking like a rig again, which will be nice. Well, so that's kind of it for the painting extravaganza. I had originally intended to chop it up a little bit, but painting is a little bit weird to film. I kind of have to do everything piecemeal here in the garage. So you're doing a lot of small batches, and each batch has a lot of layers, and some of them have basically like an overnight-ish dry time. So it slows you down quite a bit. All in all, ended up taking me about a month to get everything through the process with weather and stuff. We ended up getting 7 inches of rain over the month where I painted, which was good timing. But pretty happy to have everything pretty well buttoned up. It'll be nice to have everything curing as well. The longer it sits, the harder it'll be for when I start to assemble it. Less chance of getting chips and dings and stuff. But that'll do her for today. Look at that white shiny tub. Thanks for riding along. We'll see how this video turns out. I have no idea what footage is going to work from it. But thanks for watching. Have a good one. Catch you on the next one.